The night shift at Stellar Research Station 47 was quiet, just how Taman Park liked it. The long metal hallways echoed with only the soft squeak of his mop against the floor. Most of the scientists were asleep, and the few who worked late stayed in their labs. This left Taman alone with his thoughts and the stars. Taman had worked as the night janitor for 8 years now. The job wasn't exciting, but it paid well enough. More importantly, it gave him access to the observation deck after hours. There he could look out at the endless space and dream about the worlds beyond. Another night, another dirty floor, he muttered to himself as he pushed his cleaning cart down the hallway of Section C. This area housed the xenobiology labs where scientists studied alien life forms. Taman didn't care much for what went on behind those doors. He had seen enough to know that most specimens didn't survive long after arrival. As he mopped near the air vent in Corridor C7, a strange sound caught his attention. At first, he thought it might be the station's old air system acting up again. But this sound was different, a weak scratching almost like fingernails on metal. Taman set his mop against the wall and knelt down. The sound was coming from inside the vent. He pulled a small flashlight from his pocket and shined it through the slats. 2 tiny eyes reflected the light back at him. "Hello there," Taman whispered, surprised. "What are you?" He carefully removed the vent cover. Inside, pressed against the far wall of the duct, was a small creature unlike anything he had seen before. It was no bigger than his hand, with scales that shimmered in blues and purples. 6 limbs, 4 legs and 2 wings, were tucked close to its body. The wings looked torn, and the creature's breathing came in short, labored gasps. It looked like a dragon from old Earth stories, but with scales that seemed to capture and reflect light like tiny crystals. Station rules were very clear. All unknown life forms must be reported to security right away. The scientists would want to study it. But Taman had cleaned enough labs to know what study really meant. This little creature would be cut open before the next shift began. The tiny dragon made a soft chirping sound and tried to move away, but it was too weak. A small trail of silvery fluid, blood perhaps, marked its path along the duct. "You're hurt," Taman said softly. "Don't worry. I won't tell them about you." Making a quick decision, he reached into the vent. The creature hissed weakly but didn't fight as Taman gently scooped it into his hands. It was surprisingly warm, like holding a small heating pad. "Where did you come from?" he wondered aloud. The station hadn't received any new specimens in weeks. Perhaps it had been hiding all this time, or maybe it had stowed away on a supply ship. The dragon's eyes, deep amber with vertical pupils, looked up at him with what seemed like fear and pain. Taman felt something stir in his chest. He had always been alone on the station, keeping to himself. But this small being needed help. "I'll call you Byul," he said, using the Korean word for star. "Because your scales shine like the night sky." Taman looked around quickly to make sure no one was watching, then placed Byul in the bottom compartment of his cleaning cart, making a small nest out of clean rags. "Stay quiet now," he whispered, closing the compartment most of the way but leaving a gap for air. "I'll take you somewhere safe." As Taman continued his cleaning rounds, his mind raced. What did this creature eat? How could he heal its wings? Where could he hide it? His small quarters weren't much, but they were private. No one ever visited him there. When he passed the mess hall, he slipped inside and grabbed some leftover food, meat, vegetables, and a small container of water. He had no idea what Byul might eat, but he had to try something. Near the end of his shift, Taman cleaned the power station as usual. He noticed some discarded power cells in the recycling bin, small cylindrical objects that powered the station's handheld devices. They were depleted but still contained trace amounts of energy. On a hunch, he pocketed a few. Finally, at 600 hours, his shift ended. Taman pushed his cart toward the staff quarters, taking the long route to avoid the early rising scientists. When he reached his small room, he quickly entered and locked the door behind him. "Home, sweet home," he said to the empty room. It wasn't much. A bed, a small table, a tiny bathroom, and a food prep area barely big enough for one person. But it was his space. the only place on the station where he wasn't just the janitor. Taemin opened the cart compartment. Bjol was still there, eyes now closed, breathing shallow. "Hey, little one," he said, carefully lifting the creature. "Let's get you fixed up." He placed Bjol on his bed and set out the food items he had collected. The dragon showed no interest in the meat or vegetables. When Taemin offered water in a shallow dish, Bjol drank a little, but still seemed weak. "What do dragons eat?" Taemin wondered aloud. In stories, they ate livestock or people, but this tiny thing couldn't manage either. As a last attempt, he took out one of the power cells and placed it near Bjol. The reaction was immediate. The dragon's eyes opened wide and it crawled toward the cell, sniffing it with interest. Then, to Taemin's amazement, Bjol opened its small mouth and bit into the metal casing. A soft blue glow spread from the power cell through the dragon's body. The torn places on its wings began to shimmer, and its breathing became stronger. "Energy," Taemin said with surprise. "You eat energy." Bjol finished the first cell and looked up at Taemin expectantly. He quickly offered another, which the dragon consumed with growing strength. By the third cell, Bjol was standing up properly, its scales now glowing with a healthy light. "Better now?" Taemin asked, smiling despite himself. The dragon made a chirping sound that seemed happy. It took a few wobbly steps across the bed, then tried to spread its wings. One wing extended fully, showing a beautiful membrane that looked like the night sky with tiny points of light embedded in it. The other wing remained partly folded, still damaged. "Your wing needs time to heal," Taemin said. "You can stay here until then." He knew he was breaking at least a dozen station rules. If anyone found out, he would lose his job at best, face criminal charges at worst. Unknown alien life forms could be dangerous. They could carry diseases or turn hostile. But as Bjol curled up on his pillow, making a soft purring sound, Taemin couldn't bring himself to care about the rules. For the first time in years, he wasn't alone. "Sleep now," he told the dragon as he prepared for his own rest. "Tomorrow we'll figure out what to do next." As Taemin drifted off to sleep, he didn't notice Bjol watching him with intelligent eyes. He didn't see the way the dragon's damaged wing was already beginning to heal. And he certainly didn't feel the gentle touch as Bjol reached out with its mind, making the first tentative connection with the human who had saved its life. Outside the station windows, the stars continued their silent watch, unaware that a small act of kindness would soon change the course of two species forever. 3 weeks passed since Taemin found Bjol in the air vent. Each day brought new surprises as the small dragon grew stronger. Taemin had created a hiding place for Bjol inside his wall storage unit, lining it with soft cloths and keeping a supply of power cells nearby. "You're getting bigger," Taemin said one evening as he returned from his shift. Bjol, who had been resting in the makeshift nest, flew across the room to greet him. The dragon now moved with grace, both wings fully healed and strong. Taemin held out his arm and Bjol landed on it gently. The dragon had indeed grown, from the size of Taemin's palm to the length of his forearm. Its scales shimmered more brightly now, and the tiny lights within them pulsed in patterns that seemed to match Taemin's heartbeat. "Hungry?" he asked, pulling out 3 power cells from his pocket. He had started taking them regularly from the recycling bins around the station. No one noticed or cared about used power cells, but they still contained enough energy for Bjol to feed on. The dragon chirped happily and took the first cell in its mouth. As it fed, Taemin watched in fascination. Bjol no longer needed to bite through the casing. Now it simply held the cell and seemed to draw the energy out, making the cell glow dimly before fading to a dull gray. "I wish I knew where you came from," Taemin said, sitting on his bed, "or what you really are." As if in response, Bjol finished eating and flew to perch on Taemin's shoulder. The dragon pressed its head against Taemin's temple, a gesture it had started doing more often lately. Each time it happened, Taemin felt a strange warmth spread through his mind. This time something new happened. A flash of images appeared in Taemin's thoughts. Crystal mountains reaching toward a purple sky, vast fields of glowing plants, and creatures like Bjol but much larger, soaring through clouds. Taemin gasped and pulled back. "Was that? Did you just show me your home?" Bjol chirped and pressed its head against him again. More images came, clearer this time. Taemin saw a nest high on a crystal peak, Tiny dragons like Biol huddled together, and then a violent storm that tore the nest apart. He felt Biol's fear as it was swept away, somehow ending up near the space station injured and alone. "You can share your memories," Taemin whispered in awe. "We're actually communicating." The dragon made a sound that seemed almost like a purr and curled around Taemin's neck like a living scarf. The connection between them felt stronger than ever, as if an invisible thread linked their minds. Over the next few days, Taemin and Biol developed their unusual communication. It wasn't exactly words, but rather a sharing of images, feelings, and simple concepts. Taemin learned that Biol's species, he had no name for them except dragons, lived on a planet many light years away. They were intelligent and had a complex society, though very different from human civilization. "You must miss your home," Taemin said one night as they sat together on his small bed. He had just finished showing Biol pictures of Earth on his tablet. The dragon seemed fascinated by the oceans and forests of Taemin's homeworld. Biol sent a feeling of agreement, tinged with sadness. Then came an image of Taemin himself, surrounded by a warm glow that conveyed gratitude and affection. "I'm glad I found you too," Taemin said, gently stroking the dragon's head. "But this station isn't a good place for you. The scientists here, they wouldn't understand. They'd want to study you." The dragon tensed at this, sending Taemin a brief flash of fear and anger. Clearly, Biol understood the danger. "Don't worry," Taemin assured him. "I won't let them find you." But keeping Biol hidden was becoming harder. The dragon was more active now, wanting to fly around the small room. Twice, Taemin had nearly been caught when maintenance workers came to check the air filters, and Biol's appetite for energy was growing. Taemin now had to collect power cells from all over the station to keep up. One morning, as Taemin prepared to sleep after his night shift, the station-wide announcement system crackled to life. "Attention all personnel," came the voice of Director Han-Yul Kim. "Due to recent power fluctuations, we will be conducting a full inspection of all quarters and common areas. Inspections will begin at 1400 hours today. All staff must be present during the inspection of their assigned quarters." That is all. Taemin felt his heart sink. There was no way to hide Biol from a thorough inspection. The dragon, sensing his distress, flew to him and landed on his arm, head tilted in question. "They're going to search every room," Taemin explained, showing Biol mental images of people looking through his things. "They'll find you." Biol's eyes narrowed, and it sent Taemin a series of rapid images. The air vents, the outer hull of the station, and then stars. Endless stars. "You want to leave?" Taemin asked, his chest tightening at the thought. "But how would you survive out there? Space is empty and cold." The dragon puffed up its chest and sent an image of itself flying through space, scales glowing brightly, seemingly unaffected by the vacuum. "You can survive in space?" Taemin was amazed. "Is that how you got here?" Biol confirmed with a feeling of agreement, then added images of its homeworld again, this time with a sense of longing and determination. "You want to go home?" Taemin realized. The thought made him sad, but he knew it was right. Biol didn't belong here, hidden in a tiny room, always in danger of discovery. That night before his shift, Taemin made his decision. He packed a small bag with all the power cells he had collected and waited until the station's night cycle, when most of the crew would be asleep. "Come on," he whispered to Biol, who rode on his shoulder. "Let's get you out of here." Taemin knew the station's layout perfectly after years of cleaning every corner. He avoided the security cameras and made his way to the smallest airlock, used mainly for minor repairs to the hull. It was rarely monitored. Inside the airlock chamber, Taemin set down his bag and opened it. "Take these with you," he said, showing Biol the power cells. "They should help you on your journey." The dragon chirped softly and began storing the cells in a pouch-like structure under its throat that Taemin hadn't noticed before. When all the cells were secured, Biol flew up to hover in front of Taemin's face. For a long moment, they simply looked at each other. Then Biol moved forward and pressed its forehead against Taemin's. The mental connection between them flared stronger than ever before. Taemin saw Biol's journey home, the stars it would pass, the way it would navigate using the energy fields that humans couldn't perceive. He felt the dragon's deep gratitude and, surprisingly, a promise. Not in words, but in feelings and images Biol would remember. Biol would return. "I'll miss you," Taemin said, his voice thick with emotion. "Be safe out there." He stepped back and activated the airlock sequence. As the inner door sealed and the chamber began to depressurize, Biel hovered calmly, its scales glowing brighter than ever before. The outer door opened to the vastness of space. Biel turned to look at Taemin one last time, its eyes shining with an intelligence that still amazed him. Then the dragon spread its wings, now spanning nearly a meter, and launched itself into the void. Taemin watched through the small window as Biel flew away from the station, becoming a tiny point of light among the stars. Just before it disappeared from view, the dragon's body flashed brilliantly, like a small supernova, and then it was gone, moving faster than Taemin's eyes could follow. As he made his way back to his quarters, Taemin felt both sadness and hope. He had lost his friend, but Biel was free now, heading home where it belonged. What Taemin couldn't know as he returned to his empty room was that this farewell was only the beginning. Across the gulf of space, Biel carried not just power cells, but something far more valuable, the memory of a human who had shown kindness when no one else would. And dragons, as Taemin would learn, never forgot a debt. 2 years passed since Taemin had released Biel into space. Life on Stellar Research Station 47 had changed a lot in that time. 6 months after Biel left, the research station had been bought by Galactic Mining Consortium, a big company that dug up resources from planets and asteroids. Most of the scientists were replaced by mining engineers and business people. Taemin kept his job as night janitor. The new bosses didn't care about him as long as the floors were clean. That was fine with Taemin. He still had his small room and access to the observation deck, where he often stood during breaks, looking out at the stars and wondering if Biel had made it home safely. Sometimes, when he was very tired or the stars were especially bright, Taemin thought he could still feel a faint connection, like a thin thread stretching across space, linking his mind to the dragon he had saved. But these moments were rare and brief, and he told himself it was just his imagination. "You're getting soft in your old age," he muttered to himself one night as he mopped the floor outside the new command center. At 36, Taemin wasn't really old, but he felt it sometimes, especially during the long, quiet nights. Inside the command center, he could hear Director Soo-Young Lee talking with her team. Unlike the previous director, Soo-Young rarely noticed Taemin. To her, he was just another piece of station equipment like the air filters or the waste processors. "The Cygnus operation is ahead of schedule," Soo-Young was saying. "The new deep core drills are working better than expected. We should reach the crystal deposits within the week." Taemin didn't know much about mining, but he had heard talk about the Cygnus system. It was about 3 light years away, with several planets rich in rare minerals. The company had sent automated mining ships there months ago. "Any problems with the local wildlife?" someone asked. "Nothing significant," Soo-Young replied. "Some energy readings that might be life forms, but nothing that can't be cleared out. The planet isn't suitable for colonization anyway. Too much radiation. We're just there for the crystals." Taemin finished his mopping and moved on. Company business wasn't his concern. He had his own problems, like the leak in his room ceiling that maintenance kept promising to fix but never did. 3 days later, Taemin was just finishing his shift when the station alarms began to blare. Red emergency lights flashed in the corridors, and the automated system announced, "All personnel to emergency stations. Unknown contact approaching. This is not a drill." Taemin had been through drills before, but this was different. The fear in people's voices as they rushed past him was real. Instead of heading to his quarters as he should have, Taemin found himself moving toward the observation deck. Something pulled him there, a feeling he couldn't explain. The deck was crowded with off-duty staff, all staring at the main screen. Taemin squeezed through to the front where his friend Jiho, a maintenance technician, stood watching with wide eyes. "What's happening?" Taemin asked. Jiho pointed at the screen. "We're under attack. Look." The screen showed a view of the Cygnus system where the company's mining ships were stationed. Or rather, where they had been stationed. Now there was only debris floating in space, and moving among the broken pieces of the ships were hundreds of glowing objects. "What are those things?" someone nearby asked. "Some kind of space creatures," Jiho answered. "They came out of nowhere and destroyed the whole mining fleet in minutes. And now they're heading this way." Taemin stared at the screen as the camera zoomed in on one of the objects. His heart seemed to stop for a moment. The creature was clearly visible now, a large dragon-like being with crystalline scales that shimmered with inner light. It looked exactly like Biel, but much bigger, with a wingspan that must have been at least 20 meters. Dragons, Taman whispered. What did you say? Jiho asked, but Taman didn't answer. His mind was racing. Could these be Biol's people? Had the mining operation somehow threatened them? Director Su Young strode onto the deck, her face hard with anger and fear. Status report, she demanded. A young officer replied, The swarm will reach the station in approximately 6 hours at their current speed. We've tried communicating, but there's no response. Defense systems are online, but given what they did to the mining fleet. He left the sentence unfinished. Prepare all weapons, Su Young ordered, and send a distress call to Earth Fleet Command. Tell them we're under attack by unknown hostiles. Wait, Taman said, stepping forward before he could stop himself. I don't think they're hostile. Not really. Everyone turned to look at him. Director Su Young's eyes narrowed. And who are you to make that assessment, Janitor? Taman swallowed hard. He had kept his secret for 2 years, but now lives were at stake. I've seen one of these creatures before. A young one. It was lost and hurt, and I helped it. I think these might be its people. The room fell silent. Then Su Young laughed, a short, harsh sound. You expect me to believe that? These things just destroyed 12 mining ships and killed over 40 people. They're not here for a friendly visit. But what if the mining operation hurt them somehow? Taman persisted. What if they're just defending themselves? Security, Su Young said coldly. Escort this man to his quarters. He's clearly not well. 2 security officers moved toward Taman, but at that moment the main screen flashed with an urgent alert. Director, called out the communications officer. One of the creatures has broken from the main group. It's approaching much faster than the others. The screen shifted to show a single dragon flying ahead of the swarm, moving at incredible speed directly toward the station. Time to intercept? Su Young asked. At current velocity, 20 minutes. Target all forward weapons on it, she ordered. Shoot it down before it reaches us. No, Taman shouted, breaking free from the security officers who had grabbed his arms. Please let me try to talk to it first. Talk to it? Su Young looked at him like he was crazy. These aren't people, Janitor. They're animals. Dangerous ones. They're intelligent, Taman insisted. They can communicate through a kind of mental link. I've experienced it. Please just give me a chance before you start a war we can't win. Director Su Young stared at him for a long moment. Then she looked back at the screen, where the lone dragon was now clearly visible, its massive form growing larger by the second. You have 10 minutes, she finally said. If that thing shows any sign of attacking, we open fire. And if we survive this, you'll explain exactly how you know so much about these creatures. Taman nodded quickly. Thank you. I need to get to the forward observation bubble. It's the closest I can get to direct contact. Go with him, Su Young told one of the security officers, and keep your weapon ready. Taman ran through the corridors, the security officer close behind him. His heart pounded with fear and hope. Could it really be Biol out there? After 2 years? And if it was, would it remember him? The forward observation bubble was a small, clear dome that stuck out from the station's hull, used mainly for close inspection of the station exterior. As Taman entered it, he could see the approaching dragon clearly now without the screen. It was magnificent. Much larger than the tiny hatchling he had rescued, with scales that glowed like a living galaxy. As it came closer, Taman could see patterns in those scales that seemed familiar. The same patterns that little Biol had displayed when happy or excited. It's you, isn't it? Taman whispered, pressing his hand against the clear dome. The dragon slowed as it approached, its massive wings spreading wide to break its momentum. It hovered just 20 meters from the bubble, its eyes, amber with vertical pupils just like Biol's, fixed directly on Taman. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the dragon moved closer until it was right outside the dome. It reached out one clawed limb and placed it against the outer surface, mirroring Taman's hand on the inside. The connection that flooded Taman's mind was so powerful that he gasped and staggered backward. Images, emotions, and knowledge poured into him like a river. The mining drills breaking into sacred breeding caves. Hatchlings in danger. A desperate call for help across the stars, and through it all a voice. Not in words, but in pure thought. Taman, friend, help us. It was Biol, and it had returned with its entire people, seeking the one human it knew it could trust. Taman stood frozen in the observation bubble, his hand still pressed against the clear dome. On the other side, Biol, now massive and majestic, maintained the connection between their minds. The security officer behind Timon raised his weapon nervously. "Sir, step away from the glass," the officer said. "That thing could break through at any moment." "No," Timon replied, his voice strangely calm. "Biol won't hurt us. But we've hurt them." Through the mental link, Timon saw everything. The mining operation in the Cygnus system had drilled deep into a planet with purple skies and crystal mountains, the same world Biol had shown him 2 years ago. The drills had broken into vast underground caverns where the dragons laid their eggs and raised their young. Many hatchlings had died when the caverns flooded with toxic gases from the drilling. "What's happening?" Director Su Young's voice came through the comm system. "Is it communicating with you?" "Yes," Timon answered. "They're not attacking us. They're defending their home. The mining operation destroyed their breeding grounds. They're trying to protect their children." There was a pause before Su Young responded. "Even if that's true, they killed our people. They destroyed valuable equipment." Timon felt a wave of sadness from Biol. More images flowed into his mind. The dragons trying to warn the mining ships, attempting to communicate, being fired upon first. "They tried to warn us," Timon explained. "Our people shot first. They didn't understand." Outside the dome, Biol moved back slightly, its great wings beating slowly to keep it in place. The dragon's scales pulsed with changing colors, blues and greens that Timon somehow knew meant peace and hope. "Director," Timon said urgently, "the rest of the dragons will be here soon. If we attack them, they will destroy this station. Not because they want to, but because they believe we're a threat to their survival. We need to show them we can be trusted." The comm system was silent for a long moment. Then Su Young asked, "And how do you suggest we do that, Janitor?" "Stop the mining operation," Timon said without hesitation. "At least in the areas where their young are. And let me bring Biol inside to talk. To really communicate, I bring that thing inside." The security officer behind Timon sounded horrified. "Sir, that's against every safety protocol." "I do it," Su Young interrupted, "but in the main cargo bay only. We'll evacuate all non-essential personnel and keep security on high alert." Timon nodded, relief washing over him. He turned his attention back to Biol and tried to send his own thoughts across their connection. He pictured the cargo bay, the largest open space on the station, and tried to convey the idea of meeting there. Biol's eyes blinked slowly, and Timon felt understanding flow back to him. The dragon dipped its head in what looked remarkably like a nod, then backed away from the dome. "It's going to meet us in the cargo bay," Timon told the security officer. "We need to go there now." 20 minutes later, Timon stood in the vast cargo bay. Most of the crates and equipment had been pushed to the sides, creating a large open area in the center. Director Su Young stood nearby with a small group of senior staff and security personnel. Everyone looked tense. "Are you sure about this?" Su Young asked Timon. "If this goes wrong, we're all dead." "I'm sure," Timon replied, though his hands shook slightly. "Biol saved my life once. I trust it." Su Young raised an eyebrow. "Saved your life? You'll have to explain that later, assuming we have a later." The massive outer doors of the cargo bay began to open, revealing the blackness of space beyond. Air rushed out for a moment before the atmospheric force field activated, keeping the bay pressurized while allowing solid objects to pass through. Biol hovered outside, its form silhouetted against the stars. Then, with a graceful movement, it flew into the cargo bay and landed in the center of the open area. Up close, the dragon was even more impressive, at least 15 meters from nose to tail with a wingspan twice that length. Its scales rippled with light, and its eyes fixed on Timon with clear recognition. "Hello, Biol," Timon said, stepping forward despite the warnings from security. "It's good to see you again." The dragon lowered its head until it was level with Timon's. Then it pressed its forehead against his, just as it had done when it was small enough to sit on his shoulder. The mental connection bloomed again, stronger than ever. "Timon, friend, long time." The thoughts weren't exactly words, but Timon understood them perfectly. He smiled, tears forming in his eyes. "Yes, it's been a long time." "You've grown a lot. Danger to hatchlings, need help. Remember kindness." "I understand," Timon said aloud, for the benefit of those watching. "Your children are in danger from our mining machines. You came to ask for help because you remembered that I helped you." Biol sent a feeling of agreement. Along with images of the dragon community, hundreds of adults and many more hatchlings, all living in the crystal caverns that the mining operation was destroying. Taemin turned to Director Su Young, who was watching with a mixture of fear and fascination. They need our help. The mining is killing their young. They didn't attack us out of aggression. They were protecting their children. Su Young stepped forward cautiously. Can it understand me if I speak? Yes, Taemin said. Biol understands human speech now, and it can share thoughts with me. Su Young looked directly at the dragon. We didn't know your people were there. The survey showed no signs of intelligent life. Biol's scales flashed with colors that Taemin now recognized as frustration. Through their link, Taemin received an explanation. They live mostly underground, he translated, and their bodies don't register on our standard scans because they're partly energy-based. That's why they can survive in space. I see, Su Young said slowly. And what exactly do they want from us now? Biol sent more images to Taemin, maps of the planet's surface and underground, showing areas where mining would be safe and areas that must be protected. They want us to stop mining in certain areas. The breeding grounds, Taemin explained. But they're willing to show us other places where we can mine safely. They don't want war. They just want to protect their home. Su Young was quiet for a moment, clearly calculating the costs and benefits. The company won't like losing access to those crystal deposits. They're worth billions. Biol's eyes narrowed and its scales darkened. Through their connection, Taemin felt a clear warning. Biol says there are hundreds more dragons coming. Taemin said quietly, if we don't agree to protect their breeding grounds, they'll destroy every mining operation in the system. And possibly this station too. Is that a threat? Su Young asked sharply. No, Taemin replied. It's a fact. They're fighting for the survival of their species. What would humans do if aliens started killing our children? The director looked from Taemin to Biol and back again. Then she sighed. I'll need to contact company headquarters, but I think they'll see reason when I explain the situation. A few billion in lost profits is better than losing everything. Biol's scales brightened, shifting to blues and golds that Taemin felt as relief and gratitude. Thank you, Taemin said to Su Young. This is the right decision. Perhaps, she replied. But now we have another problem. The rest of these dragons are still heading toward us. How do we tell them to stand down? Biol sent a new image to Taemin, the dragon flying back out to meet its people with Taemin riding on its back. What? Taemin gasped aloud. You want me to go with you? Into space? The dragon sent feelings of safety and protection. Taemin would not be harmed. Biol would create a protective field around him. Biol wants me to go with it, Taemin told Su Young, to meet the others and show them that humans can be trusted. Absolutely not, Su Young said firmly. It's too dangerous. We can't let our only translator get killed. But Taemin was already making up his mind. He looked into Biol's amber eyes and saw the same trust that had been there when the dragon was small and injured. Biol had trusted him then. Now it was his turn to trust Biol. I'm going, he said. It's the only way to prevent more deaths on both sides. Before anyone could stop him, Taemin placed his hand on Biol's neck. The dragon lowered its body, allowing Taemin to climb onto its back, just behind the massive shoulders where the wings joined the body. Taemin, don't, Su Young called out, but it was too late. Biol rose to its feet with Taemin securely on its back. A shimmering field of energy formed around them both, and Taemin found he could breathe normally despite the thin air near the force field. I'll be back, Taemin promised, with peace. Then Biol turned and leapt into space, carrying the human janitor toward the approaching legion of dragons. Flying through space on the back of a dragon was nothing like Taemin had ever imagined. Inside the protective energy field Biol had created around them, he felt warm and could breathe normally. The stars stretched out in all directions, no longer distant points of light seen through a window, but all around him like a sea of diamonds. This is amazing, Taemin whispered, his hands gripping the ridge of scales on Biol's neck. The dragon sent back feelings of joy and pride. Flying free in space was natural for Biol's kind. They were born in crystal caves but meant for the stars. As they flew away from the station, Taemin looked back. Stellar Research Station 47 grew smaller behind them, now just a metal structure against the blackness. Ahead, something new appeared, a glow on the edge of space that grew brighter by the second. Is that them? Your people? Taemin asked. Biol confirmed with a pulse of light through its scales. The approaching glow resolved into hundreds of individual points of light, dragons of all sizes, their scales shimmering with different colors as they soared through the vacuum of space. It was the most beautiful thing Tai Min had ever seen. The lead dragon spotted Biol and changed course slightly to intercept. As they drew closer, Tai Min could see they were even larger than Biol, their wingspan stretching at least 30 meters. Their scales were deeper in color, showing their greater age and power. Biol slowed to a stop, hovering in space as the other dragons approached. Tai Min felt a wave of nervousness. What if they didn't listen? What if they saw him as an enemy? The largest dragon, with scales that shone like deep purple fire, moved to the front of the group and faced Biol. Its eyes, golden with wisdom and age, fixed first on Biol, then on Tai Min. A new presence touched Tai Min's mind, older, stronger, and more complex than Biol's. The elder dragon was examining him, sifting through his thoughts and memories. Human. Why you bring human, young one? The thought wasn't directed at Tai Min, but at Biol. Still, Tai Min could sense it through their shared connection. Biol responded with a flood of memories. Tai Min finding the injured hatchling, caring for it, feeding it, and finally helping it escape. Then came newer images. The mining operation, the destruction of the breeding caves, the need to stop the humans before more hatchlings died. This human different? The elder dragon questioned. Yes, Tai Min said aloud, though he knew it was his thoughts that mattered here. I want to help. Not all humans wish to harm your people. Many of us would stop the mining if we knew it was hurting you. The elder dragon moved closer, its massive head now just meters from Tai Min. Its mental presence grew stronger, examining Tai Min's sincerity. Truth in your mind. But one human cannot speak for all. No, Tai Min agreed. But I can help others understand. The station director has already agreed to stop mining in your breeding areas. We can find a way to live in peace. The elder dragon seemed to consider this. Around them, the other dragons hovered in a great circle, their scales pulsing with different colors as they communicated in ways Tai Min couldn't fully understand. Finally, the elder dragon pulled back slightly. Show us. Take us to your leaders. We will speak. Biol turned its head to look at Tai Min, seeking confirmation. Tai Min nodded. Yes, let's go back to the station. But maybe not all of you at once. It might scare them. The elder dragon made a sound that Tai Min somehow knew was laughter. A rumbling that vibrated through space itself. Wise human. 5 will go. Rest will wait. The elder dragon selected 4 others from the group, each with scales of different colors, deep blue, fiery red, emerald green, and shining silver. Together with Biol, they formed a small delegation. The rest of the dragons moved back, forming a holding pattern in space. Biol turned and began flying back toward the station, the 5 elder dragons following close behind. As they approached, Tai Min could see activity through the windows, people running, pointing, preparing for what they still feared might be an attack. I hope they don't do anything stupid, Tai Min muttered. Biol sent reassurance. The dragons would not attack unless attacked first. They had come for peace if possible. The comm unit on Tai Min's belt crackled to life. Someone from the station had thought to call him. Tai Min, are you alive? What's happening? It was Director Su Young's voice, tense with worry. Tai Min unclipped the comm unit. I'm fine. I'm bringing back Biol and 5 elder dragons to talk. They want peace, but they need guarantees that the mining will stop in their breeding areas. 5 more of those things? Su Young sounded alarmed. The cargo bay isn't big enough. Then open the main hangar, Tai Min suggested. And please make sure no one points weapons at them. They're very sensitive to threats. There was a pause, then Su Young replied, Understood. Main hangar doors will open in 2 minutes. Security will be present but not visible. As they approached the station, the massive doors of the main hangar began to slide apart. This space was normally used for large supply ships and could easily fit all 6 dragons. Biol led the way, flying smoothly into the hangar and landing in the center. The 5 elder dragons followed, their huge forms filling the space with light and color. Tai Min slid down from Biol's back as the protective field faded away. His legs felt wobbly after the incredible journey, but he stood tall as Director Su Young approached with a small group of station officials. Director, Tai Min said formally, may I present the elders of the Star Dragon people. He didn't know if Star Dragons was the right name, but it felt fitting. Su Young looked up at the massive creatures with a mixture of fear and awe. "Welcome to Stellar Research Station 47, she said, her voice remarkably steady. "We apologize for the actions that have harmed your people." The purple elder dragon stepped forward, lowering its head to look directly at Su Young. Then it turned to Taemin and pressed its forehead briefly against his. "Speak for us, friend of Biol. Our thoughts to your words." Taemin nodded and turned to Su Young. "The elders thank you for your welcome. They have lived in the Cygnus system for thousands of years. The crystal caves are sacred to them, places where their young are born and raised until they're strong enough to fly in space." The elder sent more images, and Taemin continued translating. "They don't wish to fight with humans. They understand our need for resources, but they cannot allow their children to die." Su Young nodded slowly. "I've spoken with company headquarters. They've agreed to suspend all mining operations in the Cygnus system until we can properly map the dragon breeding grounds. We want to find a solution that works for both our peoples." As Taemin translated this, the dragon's scales brightened with colors of hope and cautious optimism. The elder dragon sent new thoughts to Taemin. "They are willing to show us areas where mining would be safe," Taemin explained. "Places far from their breeding grounds. And they offer something else, knowledge. Their people have traveled the stars for countless generations. They know of other places with the minerals we seek." Su Young's eyes widened. "They would share that information with us?" The elder dragon dipped its head in agreement. "In exchange for protection of their young, yes," Taemin said. "And they ask for one more thing. A human representative who will speak for them. Someone they can trust to understand their needs and communicate with our people." "A ambassador," Su Young said thoughtfully. "That makes sense. We'll need to select someone with diplomatic experience, perhaps from Earth Central." "They've already chosen," Taemin interrupted, suddenly understanding the images the elder was sending him. "They want me." "You?" Su Young looked surprised. "But you're a janitor, not a diplomat." The elder dragon's scales flashed with colors that even Su Young could recognize as disagreement. Through Taemin it spoke. "This human saved one of our children when he had nothing to gain. He risked punishment to protect a stranger. He rode into space on Dragonback to prevent war. There is no better diplomat than one who acts with compassion before words." Su Young looked from the dragons to Taemin and back again. Then she smiled slightly. "Well, I can't argue with that logic. Taemin Park, how would you feel about a promotion? From night janitor to first human ambassador to the Star Dragons?" Taemin felt overwhelmed. Just days ago he had been mopping floors and dreaming of the stars. Now he stood among those stars' children. Chosen to bridge two worlds, Biol moved to stand beside him, lowering its head to nuzzle against Taemin's shoulder, just as it had done when it was small enough to perch there. The gesture gave Taemin courage. "I accept," he said firmly. "It would be my honor." 1 month later, Taemin stood on the observation deck of the newly renamed Dragon Diplomatic Station. His simple janitor's uniform had been replaced with an official ambassador's suit, though he still felt more comfortable with a mop than with formal documents. Outside the station, a spectacular sight greeted the human and dragon representatives who had gathered for the signing of the first peace treaty. Hundreds of star dragons flew in complex patterns, their scales creating a living light show against the blackness of space. It was a celebration of new beginnings. Biol, now officially Taemin's dragon partner, stood beside him at the viewing window. "Did you know this would happen?" Taemin asked quietly. "When you came back, did you plan for all of this?" Biol's scales shimmered with amusement as it shared its thoughts. "Not plan. Hope. Remember kindness. Return kindness." "From a dying hatchling to a legion of dragons," Taemin mused. "All because of a simple act of compassion. Simple acts change stars," Biol replied. "Small kindness grows. Like hatchlings grow." Taemin smiled and placed his hand on Biol's neck. Together, human and dragon watched as their peoples took the first steps toward a shared future. A future born when a lonely janitor chose to save a dying hatchling, never knowing it would return with a legion of dragons.